Hi, I'm Dr. Lloyd Corder. Welcome to week 6 of Nonverbal Communication, our video preview of this week's material. This week's topic is on something we call touch. And what is touch? And why do we care about it? Basically, touch is when one person physically, although not always, physically touches or puts their arm or some part of their body to another person. And that has all sorts of ramifications. And it's also a topic that has changed very dramatically, at least in the business world, in the last 15 or 20 years. It used to be that there was a lot more touching in the world. And there's some theorists that argue that the world felt like it was a lot simpler and it was a lot closer place and it was a lot better place to get along. And as we've gone on and become more and more politically correct, what's happened is that people touch each other less and less and less. But as human beings, we have this great craving to be touched or to touch others, because it usually indicates that we're okay and that somebody cares about us or they even love us. And if you look at all of the research and the readings, there are so many examples of how touch basically helps babies grow. It builds friendships. It does so many wonderful things. And it can also do some bad things, but it does so many wonderful things. So that's why we care about touch and what it communicates. Let's look at a few of those examples, even in the words we use. Somebody says, boy, somebody's pretty touchy today. What does that mean? Well, they're like a little bit rough. They're a little bit standoffish. You've got to be careful about touching them. So think about it. This is all over the place in terms of our lexicon even. You're going to look at and see some things in terms of development. There's very interesting studies that had monkeys and other animals that maybe twins were born. Take one away, put a fake mother there, no touching really, is just like a rag and some stuff, and let the other one develop naturally. Then they would sacrifice, which means kill. They'd kill both those monkeys and weigh them. And what they found out was the monkeys that got touched and cared for by the mother grew up and were significantly healthier than those that weren't. It's a sad waste of a monkey, but I'm telling you what, touch matters in terms of development. When you're in the hospital, they say some of the best physicians have the physician's touch. They're able to touch the patient, and there's a healing power. If you read the Bible, there are plenty of examples in the Old Testament and New Testament especially of how a prophet or Jesus or somebody touched someone and healed them. So touch is so powerful in terms of healing and comforting. How about when you say, wow, that really touched me? It means you were moved by it. You got an emotional connection. Touch is all over the place. Now there's sometimes when touch isn't so appropriate. For example, if you're disciplining an employee or you're having a fight, an argument, the worst thing you can do is touch somebody else in the middle of that, because it invades their personal space and it can make things even worse than they are. So a lot of times when I'm working with managers, I tell them never, ever, ever touch your employees, especially if it's in the middle of a confrontation. All right? Who touches more, the person of higher status or lower status? Does the coach touch the players or the players touch the coach? Normally, it's the higher status person. So you don't see the player coming running off and, patting the coach on the butt. Nope, it's always the other way around. The coach is the one doing the touching. And so given all these different situations, there's going to be appropriate and inappropriate touch. And what's happened a lot in recent years is this whole concept of sexual harassment. And you're in the workplace, if you're working for a big organization, even a smaller one, you don't want jokes flying across the internet. You don't want people touching each other, on and on and on. You don't have somebody come on and give somebody a big old bear hug or whatever. Why? Because it's too domineering. It's invading their personal space. It's dehumanizing. There's all of these reasons that people have come up with of why it's bad. But what we know from a nonverbal and a human standpoint is that we need touch. And so this week is really about figuring out what is that battle? How do we resolve that battle between touching and not touching? Guys, this is going to be a great week of conversation and discussion. I'll see you next week. Thanks a lot.